here is Aaditya, and he worked on the real-time planet tracker. So, fun story, a few years back, I was actually a Blue Stamp student, and I worked on this project. So coming in, I was really excited, but I also knew about the struggles that I went through, and when I was helping Aaditya, I noticed that he went through them too. So throughout the process, it's honestly a frustrating process, just part of the engineering field in general, but I'm really happy that he pushed through, and a lot of his hard work ended up paying off here. So give it up for Aaditya. He's going to show you.
Hi, my name is Aaditya. I go to California High School, and my project is a real-time planet tracker. Why I chose this project is I'm interested in astronomy and how things work in space. So when I saw this project, I was interested how such a small device can track stuff in space. So how this works is with three components: your GPS, your Arduino, and your servos. So your GPS produces your time and date, which will then be put into the Arduino, which you use azimuth and altitude calculations, which is then put into your servers to map out where it is and point out where the planet is. So using this button, I can go through different planets. So how it's so accurate is with azimuth and altitude calculations. What azimuth is like, think of it as a compass. You have north, east, south, and west. You look in a horizontal plane. What altitude is how far something is in the sky. How these calculations work is first you have your base date, which is J2000. J2000 is January 1st, 2000. And then you have the time between that and now. So with those, you can then use your orbital data, which is a fixed number of important information you use, and then with all those calculations, you find your azimuth and altitude. Why you can't just put your azimuth and altitude in right away is because these numbers change a lot. So if you were to use that, you would not need to do any of the calculations, but you need to change your code every 1 minute or so. For my modification, I added this button. What this button does is it shifts between each planet. Before, it would be a time interval, and it would shift planets on the go every 3 seconds or so. Why I added this modification is I found it very messy how it just shifts between each planet, and you can't really observe where the planet's at. My biggest challenge with this is with the coding and more specifically the sign functions. So in C++, you can't use sign functions in degrees, and when I'm printing out my values, you use degrees. So what I had to do is actually convert it to radians, and then degrees when it was printing out. Another big problem was the GPS would start printing values when it didn't even register. So what I did to fix this is I deleted GPS, so then it would only start printing values when the GPS would be on and start working. At BlueStamp, I learned a lot of things. One of the biggest things I learned was self-sufficiency. One of BlueStamp's biggest rules is you have to have 3 tries before you try something out. This led me to do most of my project on my own, and lead me to do other things on my own as well. If I had a week or so to work on my project more, I would first cut a box to put everything in because it's really messy, and I would also add an OLED screen so you can see what planets the azimuth and altitude. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
So you mentioned J2000 is the base since January 2000. So what if it was like 1998 or something? So days, do you go into the negatives or?
Well, if it was 1990, there would probably be different base dates, which I don't know on the top of my head because it is not 1990. So I use the base date as J2000.
So what exactly is this base date?
So January 1st, 2000 is the days since as a base date from all the planets orbiting. Any questions?
How did you control your servos?
I control my servos. So my servos would move from 0 to 360 degrees. What I just set limits to my servos so it can only rotate a certain amount of degrees, and that led me to control my servos.
How accurate is the data you're pulling?
So the azimuth and altitude is less than a degree off.
No, I mean like in terms of date. Like, is it updating every second, every hour?
Yeah, every second it updates.
Oh, so does your servo also like continuously rotate?
Yeah, it does. It rotates, but it's very small. You can't see it with your eye. If you look at the laser, you can kind of see.
It's like if you did time lapse again.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah.
How do you know which way your servos are oriented?
Okay, so first, I oriented north because that's like the base. That's like the base of a compass. Before there was an IU, which is an inertial measurement system. But since there's a lot of magnets going on, it messed it up. So I just grabbed that and just had it north and worked from there.
So, so does that mean that every time, like, if you move your entire unit, you have to recalibrate it or reset north?
Would you repeat that?
So, like you said it as north, right? So does it automatically set that way, or
No,
every
yeah, it
time you
automatically
move,
sets
you
that
have
way.
to set it?
It automatically sets that way. I just align my servo so it's north every time.
Okay.
Yeah.